Welcome back to the Relationship Refinery. I'm Asia. This was formerly Asia Inspires, but thank you for staying with me as I transition from Asia Inspires to the Relationship Refinery, where we're going to be talking more about building healthy relationships as well as maintaining them. This is the series Money Matters, the real root of relational ruin. This is part 3 of Money Matters, the real root of relational ruin. We talked about the first 2. If you haven't watched it, make sure you check them out. I've linked them in the description box, which we're just talking about some of the reasons why people get divorced or some of the issues that may come up in a relationship if it's not addressed ahead of time. And if you are in a relationship, it's not too late for you to address them now. Helping people to understand that making more money does not mean that your relationship is going to be healthy if you don't attack these other things in life. So like I said, we're going to be addressing reason 3 and 4, but of course, as usual, before we get started, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. And if you are already a subscriber, thank you so much for being a subscriber. Make sure you send this to a friend so they can also be a subscriber. Let's go ahead and get started though. Just to do a brief recap, the first reason that we talked about was because of your relationship with money. Your relationship with money can negatively affect your relationship regardless on how much money you make. So if you make a lot of money or you make a little money, your relationship can affect your relationship with money can negatively affect your relationship with your spouse or your partner. The second reason was your relationship with work. Some people feel like, well, I have to work a lot to make ends meet, to make, money, to keep the job. And then that can lead to conflicts in the relationship because you're giving all your time, your attention, you are spending, time, energy, effort, giving respect to your job and everything. You are taking time outside of work, outside of your, 8 hours, however many hours you work, to learn about your job, reading books, articles, taking training courses. You know more about your job than you do your partner. But then, you've been with your partner for, let's say you've been on the job for 5 years and you are constantly learning about it, but you've been with your partner for 7 years, 10 years, and you stopped learning about them in year 2. The third thing that we're going to discuss is inability to communicate about money. If you get around anybody, you'll probably find it very uncomfortable to talk about finances with random strangers, with family members, with good friends, with whoever, because a lot of us have been trained to view money as an uncomfortable thing. It's uncomfortable for us to have conversations surrounding money. And so a lot of people, they jump into a relationship or they jump into a marriage and they might have addressed bills. Who's going to pay bills? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? But they haven't really talked about money for real. So as we go through this series, I've been posing questions and things for you to do. Make sure that you do these things. If you are thinking about entering into a relationship, think about them for yourself. What are your expectations for your partner? If you are engaged or are in a serious relationship and y'all are talking about getting married, of course, make sure you talk about these things. Make sure that you don't have to be on the same page, the exact same page, but make sure that y'all are at a place where there is an easy compromise. And then if y'all are already married, then it's still important for you to discuss these things, and you may need to discuss it with a marriage and family therapist. But going back, some people have a very difficult time to talk about money, to bring up their needs and expectations with money. Do you have a more traditional worldview of where the husband expects to work or the male partner expects to work, and they expect for the female partner, the wife or whatever, to stay at home with kids, or to stay at home, when they get married, to stay at home with kids, stay at home and take care of the household chores? Have y'all talked about that? Or is there just an expectation of, an unsaid expectation of, I do this, you do that? Have y'all actually talked about it? Additionally, there's such thing as financial infidelity. So just like in regular relational infidelity, it's when you're going behind your partner's back and doing something you're not supposed to be doing. That can also happen in a financial relationship. So if you're married, the two becomes one in more ways than just physically, spiritually, etc. Y'all are not just living together, but your finances are becoming one as well. It doesn't matter if y'all have 2 separate bank accounts. Your money is going to affect your partner's money as well. So if you have a partner who is sneaking and buying things that they shouldn't be buying, who has secret subscriptions, or who just spending a whole bunch of money on something unnecessary, or they may feel like it's necessary but you may feel like it's unnecessary, of course that's going to cause some problems, especially if it's a secret. They're going behind your back intentionally. That's going to build distrust, and it also can negatively affect the finances. So this is what I mean by financial infidelity. Not being able to communicate, hey, this is what I want, or this is what I'm doing with your partner, going behind back. And this is a problem regardless of how much money you have. Once again, if you are a millionaire, or if you're making, let's say $500,000 a year, and your partner is taking that money or taking their money and they're going and buying, spending money on things that you don't feel like it's important, or that is just really expensive, and other things are not getting paid for, then that can negatively affect y'all's relationship. Once again, it can negatively affect the trust. And if you don't have trust in a relationship, do you really have a healthy relationship? So if you are someone who finds it uncomfortable for you to communicate about money, please get uncomfortable, or please get uncomfortable and talk about your expectations when it comes to money. How much money do y'all need to discuss? Like, even if y'all have the same account or separate accounts, how much money should y'all discuss before spending, if that makes sense? So, is $200, if you can go out and spend $150, and you don't have to discuss it with me as your partner, as your spouse. But the moment you're going to spend $200, we need to talk about it first. We need to convene about it, and really think about, okay, do we really need to spend this much money? Maybe it's $100. What is that magical number for y'all? That's something that you should really think about. You can also talk about, if you are to get in a negative situation, who can y'all go to for help? So is it okay for you to go to family members? Is it okay for you to go to friends? And do you need to talk to each other first before going to the other person? That's another way of financial infidelity, is by, pretending like, okay, you don't have enough money to pay this bill, and so you go to this friend or this family member and you say, hey, can you pay for this for me? But your partner doesn't know about it, your spouse doesn't know about it. They think that you're actually paying for it when it's really a family member or friend. It's another way of financial infidelity. So talk about those things. Talk about who can you go to. Talk about who will be the person to go to, the family member, the friend. Is it the expectation just on the husband as the head of the house? Is he the only one who can go to other people for financial resources? How much money do y'all need? What's the max amount of money that you can spend without talking to the other person about it? Do y'all understand the difference between financial obligations and debt, as well as personal obligations, or I won't say obligations, personal things that you want to spend money on? Have y'all talked about budgeting and what's important? Is a travel fund important? Is retirement fund important? Is a personal fund important? Is upgrading to another house or a new car, having these different type of savings account important? Have y'all talked about tithing? Is the expectation that we tithe, or that we steward our money in this way? What about donations? Like, really get into the nitty-gritty of things and talk about, and even I would say, if you're planning on getting married, if you're either engaged or in a serious relationship, I would strongly encourage, once again, I'm not a financial advisor, so take this with a grain of salt. I'm just talking about how things can affect you in a relationship, in a relational way. I would advise you to sit down, go back if you can to your statements for the last couple months, or even start this month, and write down everything that you spend your money on. If y'all are thinking about getting married, I would say share the specific amounts with your partner. I know there's people who are like, well, that's none of their business. Well, if y'all are going to get married, it is going to become their business. So talk about the specific, like I spend, and this is not me specifically, but you may have somebody who spends $2,000 on personal hair care, or personal hair care, clothes, things like that a month. Is that too much? Is that too little for your partner? Because once again, even if y'all have separate accounts, your finances is going to affect one another. So anyway, use an Excel sheet or whatever, write down all your finances from I spend this much money on groceries, I spend this much money going out to eat, I spend this much money on personal things, on fun things, on donations, on tithing, on vacations, on savings, or whatever. And then share them with your partner. And even if you're single, I would advise you to do this, because you may realize, I can cut back in this area, because it is something you're going to have to talk to a partner about. And the fourth reason, the reason why I'm putting them together is because they really go hand in hand. The other thing is pride. Some people have a big issue with pride. They feel like, well, I'm the man, so I get to dictate where money goes, and I'm the one who's making the most amount of money. Really learn how to put your pride to the side and understand that once you get married, the two shall become one. Yes, God designed for the husband to be the head of the household, but he designed you to submit to Christ. Okay, it's not just the husband is here, the wife is here, and everybody else falls in line. It's Christ is here, the husband is here, and then the wife is here. And you know, I can make another video at some other point, or I can even share a video that better explains that husband and wife, or the husband is a covering over the wife, but that doesn't mean that he is more important than the wife. It doesn't mean that he is, you know, he gets to dominate the wife. That's not what it means. But anyway, that's another conversation for another day. Pride can be a very big issue. Once again, regardless on how much money you can have $300 in a bank account, or you can have $3 million in a bank account. And your pride can negatively affect your relationship because it can lead to the financial infidelity. I don't need to tell you what I'm doing with my money. It's not your money. I can't articulate that enough. When you get married, it does not become just your money, even if y'all have separate bank accounts. I know I've already said that, but it becomes y'all's money, because if something happens to you, or if something happens, like if you lose your job, then the person in the household is assuming is your wife, your spouse. And so their finances is gonna have to take over and whatnot. So it's what you do with your money is going to affect them. If you blow all your money and if you're used to paying the mortgage, let's say, but you spent this month's mortgage amount, then guess what? Your spouse is gonna have to pick up the slack. I say pick up the slack. Once again, it's a group effort or partner effort. Anyway, so yes, pride is something you need to put your pride to the side. So some questions that I would encourage you to ask yourself is, where has pride been an issue with my money? How comfortable do I feel discussing money with a romantic partner? Does my views of finances, first, does my views of the relationship reflect biblical principles? So do I understand biblical roles? How will I feel if I make less money than my partner? How can I create a safe space for me and my spouse, me and my partner, to discuss finances or financial needs? Can they come to me and say, you know what, I messed up, I spent way too much money in this area, I'm not gonna be able to pay this, or you know, I'm in the negative in my account, or whatever the case may be. Like, how can you create a safe space for your partner to come to you about their financial needs or about what's going on in their life financially? And if you are in a relationship, how do you keep up, particularly spouses, how do you keep up with what's going on with your partner financially? And that's not to peek over to see what they're doing, to micromanage what's going on, but it's more so because you want to make sure that you are a part of your partner's world. You want to make sure that you're a part of, you know, what's going on in their life in every aspect, including the finances, right? Because once again, it's going to affect you. Think about how was finances handled in your life growing up, when you in childhood. Was it a traditional dad makes the money, you know, or makes more money than mom? And for all the men who feel like, well, that's the way it should be, or that's the way I expect for things to be, I'm making enough money that when I find my wife, or when we get married or whatever, she doesn't have to work. I really want you to think about, why is that? Is it because it's boosting your ego, it's feeding your pride? Because now I get to say that I make the money. Remember that God designed your wife, God designed women to have a purpose as well. And their purpose was more than just serving you, more than just being your wife. If you look at Proverbs 31 woman, for example, she not only served her husband, which her husband also served her, but she not only served her husband and her children, but she also had her own business and her own purpose and things like that. So if you are the type of man who's like, well, I make enough money to where my wife is gonna stay at home with kids, I really want you to think about, why do you want that? Is it for yourself? Is it something that you prayed about and God has revealed that to you? Because if that's the case, he's going to also reveal it to your wife as well. It's not going to be just one-sided, because God has given your wife, women, he's given us purpose that's also outside of our spouses, because we weren't born with spouses. We were born without husbands. And you know, God forbid, but if your husband passes long before you, you're still gonna have purpose. Thank you for tuning in to parts 3 and 4 today. If you have any questions, please, of course, leave the comment in the comment section below. Send this to a friend, as well as comment some of the questions. I'm curious to know if you learned anything, or if these are things that you have an issue with. Do you have an issue with pride? Do you have an issue with financial infidelity? Do you feel like this is my money and I don't need to talk about it with my partner? And do you feel like that's gonna negatively affect the way that you view the two of y'all as one? Let me know. And of course, make sure you hit the subscribe button and send this to a friend. Stay tuned, because next week we're going to be diving into reason number 5.